Hey, welcome back. Today's topic is simplifying algebraic expressions. Specifically, we're going to do that by two ways. First, collecting like terms, and secondly, using a little bit of a trick to remove parentheses. I guess it's not a trick, it's a rule, something that you can do. And then collecting like terms after that. So first off, collecting like terms. In order to collect like terms, you have to know what a like term is. And like terms, like we say here, is terms in which the literal coefficient or the letter is exactly the same. Has to be the same letter, same exponent, etc. So take a look at the terms that I have down there below and see if you can identify which ones would be like and which ones are not alike. Okay, hopefully you picked a 3x and a minus 56x. Oh, and this, root 56x. Yeah, all of those would be alike. It's because they have the same letter. Even though they have a different number, different sign, and this one's even an irrational number, if they have an x term at the end, I would classify these as like terms. So if they're like terms, we can do something to them. These guys over here, one with a y and one with an x squared, are not like. The letters and the exponents are not the same. Okay, so if we are collecting like terms, like in these examples here, and they probably showed you something like this in your textbook, if I have 6x plus 15x, I notice that each has an x. So, like the textbook says, I can factor out an x. So if I factor out an x, I think in the book they put it at the end, but if I factor out an x, then I'm left with 6 plus 15. Or 6 plus 15 is 21. So x times 21, but typically we just write that with the number first and then the letter second. So this would be 21x. But you probably thought that originally too. Typically, we don't do these steps here on paper. Typically, we just go to that step there. So in this case here, minus 3x minus 8x. So negative 3 and a negative 8, this will be a negative 11x. The next one, x, x, x. Oh, a y. That one's not like, so I can't add its coefficient. But I can with these first three because they're the same letter. 2x minus 6x is a minus 4x. Minus 4x plus 14x would be 10x. And since there's nothing else I can do with the 15y, I just simply add it at the end. Okay, so that's collecting like terms in order to simplify. Now, another thing that we are often asked to do in a question, and we have to do this in order to simplify, is multiplying by a negative 1. On this page I show you some basic examples, but on the next page we'll show you some that are just a little bit meaner. One thing that I've said in here is that some of my former students have labeled this dealing with the dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking negatives. And that's true because many questions that you'll get wrong will be because of these negatives, or your inability to multiply properly by a negative 1. So let's concentrate on it for a couple slides and see if we can get it. The rule says that if you multiply any number by negative 1, you simply change the sign of 6. So negative 1 times 6 is going to be a negative 6. Or negative 1 times x is simply a negative x. Now, if I have brackets, and we've seen the distributive property before, where I have a number out front being multiplied by things in brackets, I need to multiply the 6 by the x and by the 2. In this case, I get 6x plus 12. But I can do that same thing if I have a negative number out front of brackets. So in this case, I must multiply the negative by both things inside the bracket. So negative 1 times x is negative x, just like we did up there. Negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2. Notice that I simply changed the sign of everything inside the brackets. Here again, same kind of question. This time I don't have a 1 out front, but if I have a negative, and there's no 1, it's assumed to be a 1. If I wanted, I could write a 1 in there, but when you do lots of these, you'll find that you'll just realize that it is a negative 1. So negative 1 times a changes its sign, so it must be a negative a. Negative 1 times negative b, I just have to change that sign, so it'd be negative a plus b. So multiplying by negative 1, it's sometimes a little bit tricky, but it's critical that you get that good, or that you start doing that well. Let's try a couple of other slides that show that. All right, so here I have a negative out front of a bracket, and I guess that would be an important thing to do when you're doing any of these questions, is identify those dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking negatives. So in this case, a negative out front of a bracket, that's a dirty one. Negative out front, dirty one. Negative, another one. Right here, right here. There's a negative out front of a bracket. Have to be aware of that one. Right here, negative out front of a bracket, dirty one. Only got 2 in the same question. Oh, I like those. So being able to identify where those negatives are in front of a bracket is critical to help you solve those or to simplify them. Okay, so negative out front just means change the sign of whatever's inside. If I have a negative 24x, it'll change to a positive 24x. This one here, a negative out front, I have to change the sign of everything in those brackets. So 5 is positive, it changes to a minus. The x is negative, so it changes to a plus x. The 2y is a positive 2y, it changes to a negative 2y. Now I can't do anything more with those because none of them are like terms, so I'd be finished right there. The next one, I have a minus out front, so I have to change the b to a minus b. And I have a minus c, I must change it to a plus c. Again, unlike terms, that's as far as I can go. That one's right. Okay, this next one looks like I can do a little bit of work with this one. I'm going to leave those first 2 terms alone so that I can deal with this negative in front of a bracket. Negative in front means change the sign of every term inside of the subsequent bracket. So the 3y here is positive, because it's in the bracket, it's positive. Because of this minus, it changes to a minus 3y. The 4 is positive, because of this one, it changes to a minus 4. Notice I'm changing both of them. Don't get in the habit of just changing the first one. Okay, and lastly, I guess we didn't collect like terms here. We should do that. So 6y minus 3y, I guess I could collect them. So 6y minus 3y, and then I'd have a minus 4 minus 4. And 6y minus 3y is 3y. Minus 4 minus 4 is a minus 8. Careful with those where you think, oh, that's just 0. Careful and just go through your rules of adding or subtracting integers to make sure you're coming up with the right answer. Okay, the next one, let's do the same thing as we did here. Let's just deal with those dirty negatives. Okay, negative out front of a bracket, so everything inside changes. The 3x is positive inside here, so it'll change to a minus 3x. The 2 is positive, it'll change to a minus 2. Let's deal with this one right away. The 5 inside here is positive because of the bracket, it's positive, but because of this one, it's going to change to a minus 5. And the minus 8x is going to change to a positive 8x. Okay, so let's collect like terms. So I have a 2x, a minus 3x. Here I have a plus 8x. Notice that the sign in front of the term goes with it. And then I have a minus 2 and a minus 5. I'm just going to put my equals there because these expressions are all equal. 2x minus 3x is a negative 1x. Negative 1x plus 8x is 7x. I can add those or subtract them because they're like. Negative 2 minus 5, negative 7. So there would be the correct answer for the simplification of that. Again, critical there, if there's a minus or a subtraction in front of a bracket, you have to change all of the signs in the bracket that follows. Oh, here's a nice one. Okay, let's take a look. I need to simplify these by multiplying by -1 and then collecting like terms if I can. A negative, well, here it's a -2 instead of just by a -1. So I guess multiplying by -1, it's really multiplying by negative anything. Okay, so if you're multiplying by negative any number, that rule of changing the signs inside is in effect. Okay, so this one right here, negative out front of a bracket, it's a dirty one, have to be careful. So let's simplify it. We'll keep the 3 there. And now here I'm going to go -2 times x is a -2x. Then I'll go -2 times a +4. That's a -8. Notice that the sign changed. It went from a plus to a minus. This x was positive. It went to a negative. In simplifying, I'll bring my -2x out to the front, and then I'll have a +3 and a -8, which are like terms, so I can complete this by going 3 take away 8 is a -5. Okay, so that would be the simplification of the original expression. Okay, here's another one. Oh my goodness sakes. Okay, here's a minus in front of bracket, a minus in front of a bracket, another minus in front of a bracket. 3 dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking negatives in the same question. You gotta like that. Okay, so let's our order of operation applies. So we'll do whatever's in the smallest brackets first. I guess these are my smallest brackets, but I can't do anything in there. And so I can go to the next smallest bracket, would be the square ones. So I'm going to try and deal with this negative sign there. So let's write everything else out. 5x minus 2x minus 3 square bracket. Okay, we'll leave the a plus 2 alone. I can drop the brackets because I can't do any operations in between there anyway. This minus, though, will change this a to a minus a, and this minus will change this plus 2 to a minus 2. Okay, I'm feeling not too bad about this. Let's see if I can simplify what's inside there. So I have 5x minus 2x minus 3. Okay, a, take away a, oh, that's 0. Oh, 2 minus 2 is 0 too. So inside that bracket is a 0. Oh, I like those kind of questions. So I have a 5x minus, now let's proceed and do what's in parentheses here. So I have 2x. Notice that you can't do that operation there, that subtract, because this is times. And our order of operations says I have to multiply before I add or subtract. So 3 times 0 is 0, so this would be, I guess I could write minus 0. But subtracting 0 doesn't change anything. So really I have 5x minus 2x in the squiggly parentheses. A minus in front of a bracket, I have to change the sign of the thing inside. So 5x, this will be, instead of a positive 2x, it'll be a minus 2x. Which I guess is a simple thing. You probably saw that already, but I just want to make sure we're following rules the whole time. And 5x minus 2x would be equal to 3x. So I really, because these are equal expressions, I should write equal sign in front of all of them, because they are all saying the same thing. They're expressing the expression just in a initially it was complicated, then as we went we got simpler, 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 until we had finally simplified that expression. Notice all the things that we did with there too. We had to deal with the dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking negatives. Okay, so that was one of the rules that we did. We looked at collecting like terms in here. We did some order of operations here, which thing that I should I do first. More dirty negatives stuff right here, and finally collecting like terms. So there's lots of places where you might make a mistake. So you want to be very careful that you're applying the rules properly on each step. And, like I've done on this one, rather than trying to do lots in your head, do as much on paper as you need to. Some people might have been able to look at this first question and said, oh, the answer is 3x. Maybe not too many, but some people could have. What you want to do is include as many steps as you can so that you can get the questions right all of the time. Okay, so today then we have looked at two things really to help us to simplify expressions. First, identifying like terms and then adding or subtracting them, combining them. And finally, using our ability to multiply by a -1 or multiply by a negative number in order to get rid of brackets, remove brackets, and then collect like terms and simplify an expression. Okay, I hope that helps. Remember, try lots and lots of questions and practice, practice, practice.